All right, my babies. Hi, how are we? The last time I discussed or just talked about how it's more comfortable for me to kind of like update you on what's going on and how it kind of flows into the note of the day. But so my eye is much better. I actually went to a doctor and he removed the splinter from it. Fuck yeah. It's the first time it happens to me. It was super awkward, but I like very much was feeling like I put her on my eye, so it's a her, right? I have no idea. I put her in like a predicament where I exposed her to meaningless danger. It literally was like one of those like chainsaws, and I was kind of like going "Meow," flashing in my eye and everything. But yeah, because I'm a man, I don't give a fuck and all that good shit. Well, hey man, looking at the sun started becoming a bit like I don't know, frustrating. Anyways, so I went to the doctor. I took it out. It was like a cute day for me to consider stuff and just kind of like be like every single. And it was super funny because my dad was there, and anytime I'd be like, I'm about to say fuck, and like just go crazy and like get upset or something like this. And I'd be like, no, baby, like fuck, man, it's really upsetting. Like the sun is upsetting my eye because of how my eye is basically reacting to the splinter being there and how like whatever is happening with like the how it's trying to handle it and deal with it. Again, like it's a part of me, right? Like the last thing I want to be is kind of like an asshole to something I actually am putting myself through. So it was very cute for me to see how like my emotion would just kind of like go on a trajectory that I'm used to, like where you're kind of like wanting to be grumpy or be like, "Why is this happening to me?" kind of crap, to like, "No, baby, all right, man, I'm sorry. Like we're doing this, we're handling this." You were, in all honesty, man. After 5 days, I went to the doctor, and it could have gotten infected. It could have gotten all kinds of stuff, and it was like fresh wood. I was cutting fresh wood from the branch. It's not like it was like dead wood or something like this, or maybe that's why it didn't get infected. I have no idea. But it's just like the simply beautiful how like even the eye, one of the sensitive parts of us, is kind of like resilient in its own like in its own way. But anyway, so it was beautiful. I have to put drops now and put like some gel before I sleep, which is fine. And I have to kind of like adjust to. I had weird nightmares that day, but it was super fun. I don't know if it's a nightmare. It's just like one of those dreams where you feel weak, but then halfway through you kind of get semi-conscious because you kind of like, am I gonna wake up from this dream or am I gonna like handle it so it doesn't kind of like, I don't know. It felt like I was like on a one of those deeper levels where I was probably feeling weak because my eye was kind of like having was going through something, and almost every single thing that I doesn't seem to have been handled in my life, or at the very least that I don't fully feel secure about or confident about, right? Kind of like showed itself in the dream. And naturally, after I took charge at one point, which means I'm no longer fully asleep, but it's like me and my mind and kind of like that sleepy state where I'm not really deciding to wake up. And what happened was I kind of like went through it. I kind of approached it in a way where I had more control, but it's not the healthiest of way, or it's not the. And then I woke up, and when I woke up, what I did was I recorded what happened when I noticed what was happening in my head, and basically what I did after I noticed what was happening in my head. And the rest of the day was just literally me casually being completely brain fucked, confused, as in like I really wanted to do more stuff. I wanted to work. It didn't happen. I wanted to chill. It didn't happen. I wanted to just like sit and have a conversation, normal conversation with somebody. It barely happened. And I just kind of like allowed the day to be itself because like it was a lot to process maybe, or just like my space was completely like when there's a glass of water and there's sediment at the bottom and it feels like the water is clean enough to drink until you move the glass and then everything kind of becomes funky. So that kind of stuff. It was fun. But one thing I genuinely like noticed about myself, and this has nothing to do with today's video. I love it. These updates are a lot more kind of like I don't know if they're personalized or detailed to where these videos come from, Maybe I'm realizing something different now that I'm actually allowing the flow to be consistent. But what happened was, I realized that when in my head, I was very much comfortable shifting my approach when something was going wrong. And it felt like as long as it was a dream that I didn't really like, I kind of stubbornly wanted to stick to it and change its outcome, right? And that's probably the arrogance or the ego kind of like interfering in order with kind of like maybe clashing with the subconscious, if you want to consider it that way. I don't know how to consider it because I feel like if I actually consider it without allowing it to like dissipate its own self, without allowing it to destructure itself based on, I don't know, whatever's happening, but allowing it to kind of like do its own thing I before I approach it, before I touch it, before I actually like come close to any opinion, right? Because like all of these opinions are what we're trying to avoid because those are judgments. Those are like us kind of like deciding on something, and in a way it's like forcing the puzzle in its place. But then naturally it was like not necessarily, it wasn't the best of like feelings when you're kind of like sleeping and then you kind of realize your heartbeat is elevated because the dream is kind of like affecting you. And then what you want to do, like I didn't want to control my heartbeat, but I did not want the dream to progress as it wanted to. And that's where you kind of like get a bit of like lucidity in it. But then again, it just becomes, are you lucid in the dream, or are you just kind of like, you already have the storyline, you're now more in charge of the character. But that also feels as the actual ego that you build in order to survive in this world, which means the truth behind the dream the dream was trying to explain to you was a bit more. This is the reality of how we feel, and these situations are kind of the best way for you to notice that you're not really as on top of things as you thought you were or you would want to be. I completely understand that. And I completely respect that in a way because I am a believer that we kind of formulate opinions in order for us not to kind of like deal with the crappy stuff, deal with the stuff that doesn't really, I don't know, that allows us to have a glitch within our whatever. Anyways, uh, there's just the stuff that could evolve on its own, maybe. I don't know. But the one thing I realized is when I stopped looking at crappy stuff, or basically the dream that was explaining itself, at one point my existence in the dream became more like, why am I bothering with kind of like this predicament? Why is it affecting me? I should be considering more something like this. Again, opinion, right? I'm actually like in my dream, I'm reasoning with myself, and reasoning with yourself is based on certain kinds of processes and judgments. And so at one point, I got, I was like, instead of looking at this, I should be looking, or I should be instead of exploring this, which is not really something I have a say in, I looked at the other side and I was like, I should probably explore my vision and the things that I wanted to do. And it took me 2 fucking seconds, not even that, to kind of, I want to say get excited, but I woke up. And then when I woke up, the first thing I questioned was like, why the hell did I wake up? I've been like trying to stick to it for the past 5 minutes. But the minute I started looking at the future or the vision or my work, I got excited to stand up and start working. And that creates a separation between the kind of like mental work that you have to do, the spiritual work, and the physical work. And naturally, it was still like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I woke up, and the first thing I did, I started recording everything just to keep it fresh in my mind because I didn't want to forget the dream or the drama that happened between me and the dream. But again, like what truly happened was I was perfectly comfortable dealing with my imagination when things were crap. But where things were good, the first thing I did was I moved. And this movement kind of like changed the environment because I opened my eyes and I stood up and all that kind of stuff. It changed my environment. And suddenly, the things that I was supposed to observe a bit deeply, it felt like I was kind of like moving away from them. It felt like the essence that would make anything positive actually keep happening. I was moving away from them. There's that blissful state of a dream, like a happy dream, I think is kind of like the key to the day being fluid and like creating that momentum. But again, the same way I imposed myself on the dream, I was waking up and ready to impose myself on reality and on the real world. I, that was like something that I noticed and it kind of stuck with me. Like, you know, why couldn't I have stayed and imagined the beauty or something? Like, I kept, why couldn't I have within the dream, because I was like kind of in charge, kept just being a bit more creative about the things that I wanted to do? I have no idea. I feel like it's because what I want to do is still not really something that I'm confident in doing because I don't really like see myself evolving in it in a way that something's still not clicking at between intermediate and pro level. There has to be that click for you to start transitioning, and I'm like kind of like trying to understand it. But anyways, I just wanted to share this with you, and this creates momentum for the rest of the videos. Peace. It's a video.